Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Here's a real quick winnable war moment before we get back into Second Amendment stuff. This is a pretty cool deal. We've talked about Santa Monica, California. My good friend Patrick Mahoney set up a living nativity there. Remember that? He found out they had nativity scenes there at Santa Monica Palisades Park for 59 years, and they banned them this year. But my good friend, Reverend Patrick Mahoney, found out that the ban was on unattended nativity space. If it was attended, if there was somebody there, some live person there, you could have it. So he arranged with believers there in Santa Monica for a living nativity. So they had the Joseph and Mary, the mother of Christ. They had a baby. I don't remember if they had animals or not, but they had the whole deal. Everybody wearing the robes and looking authentic, and they staged a living nativity. So for the 60th year in a row, Santa Monica had a nativity display, only this was even better than the first 59 because this was real live people. Now, also in Santa Monica, a church in Santa Monica, Metro Calvary Chapel, they got together with some other believers from other Orange County churches, and they did a nativity flash mob inside the local mall. A nativity flash mob. Now, it started off, and you can catch this, you can find this on YouTube if you want. It's about 6 minutes long. It starts out with one woman just singing a Christmas carol right in the middle of the mall. Within seconds, you've got other people joining her in singing traditional Christmas hymns. And as they're singing these traditional Christmas hymns, another woman comes in and places an empty manger near the group. Then they start singing, "O Come All Ye Faithful," and Mary, Joseph, and the Christ child in full costume, they appear near the manger. And before long, the other characters associated with the nativity emerged, and a crowd began to circle the spectacle with cameras. So pretty cool deal. Nativity flash mob in Santa Monica. Now, I want to save clip 4. We are scheduled to have Michael Hammond, who is legal counsel for Gun Owners of America, have him on in the second hour at 2:15. And the executive director of Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt's been a guest on this program. He was on Piers Morgan last night, and they had kind of a shootout. I want to play a little bit of that, and we'll have Michael Hammond kind of respond to that. But let's jump down to clip 5. Now, by the way, one of the things that happened, this is Norah O'Donnell grilling Rahm Emanuel, and this is an interesting thing. I watched a little bit of President Obama's presser this morning, and one of the interesting things that happened is that toward the end of the press conference, Jake Tapper of ABC News, and this guy actually, I've got a certain amount of respect for Jake Tapper as a journalist. This guy actually once in a while does some accidental journalism, and he did some today. And he said to President Obama, "Look, you've been in office for 4 years. This is not the first instance of horrific gun violence during your 4 years." And he says, "Where have you been?" I mean, you talk about a pointed question to the President of the United States. We've had gun violence for the last 4 years. We had the Aurora Theater shootings. We've had shootings here. We've had shootings there. And you've done nothing. And now all of a sudden, you show up and want to address this issue. Where have you been on this issue for 4 years? Now, I'm sure Jake Tapper's a guy that would like to see the government come in and confiscate your guns and mine. He'd probably want to find a way to keep some for him, protect his family. He doesn't want us to have them. So I'm guessing that's where his sympathies lie. And that's why he's frustrated. President Obama, how come you haven't made a move to take guns from the American people before now? Why have you waited so long? But, man, you could almost see the smoke boiling out of President Obama's nostrils. He got real testy when Jake Tapper asked him that question. He said, "Man, I've been involved in fighting 2 wars. I've been involved in getting decent health care for everybody. I've been involved in making sure kids get a decent education. I've been out there making sure parents have jobs. I've just been too busy to take guns away from people who use them to kill innocent little school children." So that was pretty interesting. He got real testy. Now, Rahm Emanuel was President Obama's advisor, chief of staff, till he went off to become mayor of Chicago, which is the homicide capital of the world. And they've got very strict gun control laws in Chicago, some of the strictest in the country. And their homicide rate is virtually the highest in the country. I think maybe Detroit is worse, but Chicago is pushing them, I think, for a close second. They're in the top 5 anyway. And so Norah O'Donnell, she is CBS News. This is from CBS this morning. And she goes after Rahm Emanuel on President Obama's gun control record. Here's how it went.
The assault weapons ban expired in 2004. You were President Obama's chief of staff. And in 2009, according to Danny Kleidman's book, Killer Capture, you were furious with Attorney General Holder, who held a press conference in February of 2009 saying that the Obama administration was going to reinstitute, push the assault weapons ban, and that you went and said to the chief of staff, sent word to Justice that Holder needed to shut up on guns.
First of all, it's a book. Let me say this, Nora. President Obama always stood for getting this done, number one. Number two, I passed the Brady Bill, the assault weapon ban. It is very, very important that we do that. The fact is, in 2009, the president and the entire government was very clear, as this Attorney General knows, in getting all the president's legislation done and working with Congress to do that.
So we were just too busy. But the left-wing media now, they're starting to holler and push the Obama administration on banning guns, getting a ban on assault weapons as a place to start. Number to call if you want to join the program, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Here is clip 6. This is Jay Carney, and he is being pressed in this question about why the Department of Justice was told not to pursue a weapons ban for the sake of Democrats. In other words, the Democrats know this thing is toxic because the American people are not with them. A lot of American families have guns. They own guns. They have them in the home for self-protection. They have them for recreation. Guns are valuable to them. They're important to them. They have family members that are depending on them for their safety and security, so guns are important to them. So this is not a popular issue with the American people, and so the Department of Justice was actually told, look, don't go after a weapons ban. We don't want this. This is bad for Democrats. It's bad for our election chances because the American people are with the Second Amendment. They are not with the Democratic Party. And that's the choice you got to make. If you believe in the Second Amendment, you cannot be a genuine card-carrying member of the Democratic Party because they're opposed to it. So here is Jay Carney being pressed again by Jake Tapper doing some more accidental journalism. Let's listen.
In the first year of the Obama administration, Attorney General Holder was going to take action on regulating guns, and the president's chief of staff told him to shut up. He added a couple words in there about guns, the issue being the fact that there were a number of Democrats in vulnerable districts where gun rights were popular, that would politically it was not wise. Does the president know about this? Does the president regret that took place? Has Attorney General Holder been told since Aurora or Fort Hood or Sikh Temple or Newtown or any of the other many shootings that have taken place while Mr. Obama's been president, has Mr. Holder been told to resume what he was planning on doing before the White House Chief of Staff told him to stop?
Well, that's an anecdote that I'm not familiar with. As though I know the author. I confess from the podium that I didn't read his book. But the
does that mean it didn't happen?
I don't know, and so I certainly haven't had a discussion with the president about it.
So that's Jay Carney. I don't know what you're talking about, and what Eric Holder. What Rahm Emanuel's chief of staff, he's the one that went to Obama or went to Eric Holder, and he told Eric Holder, and he swore at him, he used the F word, he said, shut the blank up. I don't want you talking about guns. I don't want you talking about a ban on guns. I don't want you talking about a ban on assault weapons. So again, what this makes it clear is that all this bloviation today about this blue ribbon task panel, this is just all smoke and mirrors. It's all a political charade. President Obama has no real intention of doing anything with this. I mean, he's talking about timetables, but you can knock me over with a feather if there's any genuine legislation promoting a ban on assault weapons that actually gets seriously considered. What Barack Obama wants to do is he wants to talk about it. He wants the people on his side of the aisle to think he's serious about it, to hear him saying all the right things, but he does not want to do anything about this, and people in his own party don't want him to do anything about it. 888-589-8840. A number to call if you want to join the program. Let's go to Kurt in Grants Pass, Oregon. Take a call here before the break. Kurt, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Brian. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Firstly, thank you for playing Dennis Richardson's soundbite about the teachers ought to all be armed with a gun in their desk.
Yeah.
I don't agree with him. He's one of the legislators that voted for ethanol. But you said something about the Brady bill. Former Sheriff Richard Mack of Arizona, or Utah and then Arizona, spoke here in Grants Pass in 2010 how he and some other sheriffs got together. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, 5-4 decision that the Brady bill was unconstitutional, telling the sheriffs what they had to do to confiscate weapons. My other comment is any weapon, a bow and arrow, is an assault weapon if you use it to kill a person. So I don't care if it's a little gun, a big gun, it's still an assault or a weapon that can be used to assault a person.
Yeah, I have a story from Idaho, a newspaper today, about a guy getting stabbed to death in northern Idaho. So knives can be a lethal weapon. And
one other quick question. One other thing I don't understand, I don't know if you're familiar or your listeners are familiar with Pacific Garden Mission since the late 1800s, how they're winning people to the Lord, but how Chicago is such a crime-infested city.
Boy, it sure is. And, and thanks for the Kurt call. And, you look at Chicago, I mean, this is liberal governance on steroids. You look at Detroit. I mean, these places have been run by liberals for decades. I mean, these ought to be, if socialism worked, Chicago and Detroit would be a paradise on earth. Detroit is empty. They used to have 1.8 million people. They're down to about 600,000. About a quarter of the homes in the town are completely unoccupied. They're taking bulldozers to knock them down, just clearing vacant lots. You can buy a home in Detroit for $1 because the place is so destitute. Their 8th graders, only 4% of them are proficient in math. Only 8% of them are proficient in reading. They're illiterate. They're uneducated. Why? Because liberals have been running that city for decades. Same thing happening in Chicago. And the reason that they're the homicide capital of the world is because they have a ban on handguns. The only people that have guns are the criminals. The law-abiding citizens gave up their guns. They don't have them. They're helpless, defenseless, sitting ducks. Focal Point, AFR Talk, 888-589-8840, back in 2.
Would you like to support